WillE has a video, and then we're going to have a conversation about this video. It isn't dead yet, my boy. Gavin, listen. Wait until you see what we're going to talk about. Let's see what's up. First off, WillE's video here.
Phase 4 of Season of Discovery has been out for about a week or so now, raising the level
That's right,
cap.
a little bit over.
Phase 4 of Season of Discovery has been out for about a week or so now, raising the level cap to 60, adding new runes into the game, and giving players a first look at the start of the end game of this seasonal server. And to be honest, for me, it must be the first classic release ever where I haven't really already put some serious time into the game, achieve a level cap, and I'd usually be working on gearing up too. I have a character ready to go, of course. I've even gone and got my world buffs and consumes, but I'm kind of sitting there in Thorium Point, and I keep thinking I'll get started on it soon enough, because I do want to at least experience Phase 4 for a review in some capacity at the end of SOD, but I can't just seem to take that first step and get back into Season of Discovery and Phase.
So he's a guy that quit during Phase 3, and he doesn't want to come back and play Phase 4. Okay, why?
Phase 4. And I've been thinking about, why has this been happening for me specifically? So obviously there's going to be a lot of personal takes here. Maybe you'll feel the same way, maybe not. There might even be some spicy takes in here as well. But overall, I just can't help the feeling that Phase 4 isn't going to be enough to bring me back to Season of Discovery. Well, at least not for long anyways, and here's why that's happened. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev gives ambitious and self-motivated
I think there are a lot of people that feel that way. A lot of people.
Python and Go programming languages.
Oh,
Where it's different is it treats this a learning process as though it's an RPG with goals, experience, and achievements.
Maybe if you guys use this this service, you guys can get a job at Microsoft and make it so their operating system doesn't implode for 7 billion computers.
This keeps you engaged with the topic you're on, as well as allowing you to track what you've done so far. And one of the main things they want to get you doing on your learning journey is writing tons of your own code, so you can get that first-hand understanding of what works and, more importantly, why. And if you just wanted to check out Boot.dev before committing to anything, it really is risk-free.
I feel like for the last like 4, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 8 years, one of the memes has been learn to code. Learn to code. You need to learn how to code. Learn to code. Do you think too many people are coding now? I don't know. Chat, do we have too many coders? What if the real truth is learn to plumb, learn to weld, learn to I don't even know. You think so? I don't know.
The content is free to read and watch in guest mode. And on top of that, there's a 30 days no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. Boot could very well be the start to a career with high earnings and maybe even remote work positions too. So if coding's something you have been considering, why not give them a try? You can click the link in the description box and use my code WillE to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That'll be 25% your first month, or depending on the subscription you choose. Many thanks to Boot.dev for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. Getting back into Season of Discovery is coming after a huge break for me. I played Phase 1 a lot, I did BFD loads, I leveled every character to 25, and I even got all of the runes on every single class. Okay, fine, apart from the Grisby rune, I'm not made of gold. And I was playing solidly from Phase 1 into Phase 2. That rolled around, I did a bunch of Noma, did some leveling, got the runes, but I dropped down to about 3 or 4 characters.
Phase 1 was pretty good. Phase 1, and the reason why Phase 1 was good, it just felt very, like, casual. It felt very casual. It was just very chill. It was very relaxed.
And in Phase 3, I leveled and got, well, some of the runes on about 2 characters. And so in Phase 4, I'm kind of in this weird spot now. I have some of the runes, but not others, and I'm going to have to backtrack and go and get them if I do want to continue playing, really. I've completed some bits of zones, but not others, because I just keep out leveling them. We have this huge XP buff, and it's like the whole 1 to 60 experience has become very disjointed, with Blizzard consistently speeding things up. I've said this many times, but I get why they're doing this. It's a seasonal server, but rushing people towards the end game is just a mistake, and one they've made before as well, because they did this in Season of Mastery 2 by giving people an experience buff early on, as well as focusing the majority of the new content.
Yeah, this is something I totally agree with. I think the single best piece of content Blizzard has ever made in World of Warcraft is vanilla WoW leveling. Vanilla WoW leveling is better than any dungeon, any raid, any arena, any battleground. Leveling is the best. It is so good. And a mistake that Blizzard has fallen into in Season of Discovery is not really making the leveling better. In fact, in a lot of ways, they made it worse, i.e., incursions. But they just like sped people through it, right? And so it's like you have the single best piece of content and you either destroy it or you reduce people's interaction with it by giving them a ton more experience. And so it's like this is one of the reasons why I've gone on the record. I've said multiple times here on my show that I feel like the classic devs really don't understand why people like vanilla WoW. They understand people do like vanilla WoW. Most certainly people like vanilla WoW, but why do people like it? Why really do people keep coming back to this game over and over and over again? Why has this game stood the test of time? 20 years. Why do people like this game? And I feel like the classic devs really don't get it. I think they don't understand.
Content on classic raids, and in Season of Discovery, we're kind of going in that same direction once again. I don't know about you, but for me, the best bit of classic has always been 1 to 60. You know, on 2019 Classics re-release, I leveled every...
And so, by the way, there are a lot of cool things that you could do to make leveling more exciting, to make leveling cooler, right? A new leveling zone, a new leveling dungeon. What about leveling world bosses? What about in Stranglethorn Vale, every couple hours or every couple days, there's a level 39 sort of like world raid boss. And you have to get a bunch of people in STV together to kill the world raid boss, and he drops really cool leveling gear, right? What about more events like the Gorbashi Arena that sort of gets people together, consolidated, and that stuff like that is awesome. And instead, we got incursions and 50 or 100% XP increase, which is just like blah. I want to level. I want to be out here in the world. I don't want to be running laps in incursions. Okay, I don't want to be, sped through on a conveyor belt. I like it. There's a reason why people keep leveling characters over and over again.
Class in the game from 1 to 60, including 2 warlocks. I even ended up making a video about it and my experiences, and you know what I did when I hit 60 on every single character apart from my main and my alt, of course? I logged out and I did not play them again until TBC. Okay, fine, I used them for professionals, but endgame was kind of the end of the game, if you will. Back then, of course, I was actively raiding whatever raid was out at the moment, but I didn't really want to do it on more characters than I had to. I just wanted to get the experience and really to have completed that objective that I never did back in the day. But faster leveling overall doesn't feel as though it fits into a vanilla universe. I get that it's problematic when you have a seasonal server on your hands, but 150% bonus XP and the new runes has me feeling like I'm playing a different version of the game where you blast through the content.
Well, okay, he says faster leveling kind of makes sense given it's a seasonal server, and you're right. Like, okay, if people are going into SOD only expecting it to be here for 12 months, then yeah, maybe people don't want to invest 7 days played or 8 days played into leveling a character. But it doesn't have to be seasonal. Okay, let's talk about this idea. It's seasonal. Season of Discovery, Season of Mastery. The seasonal concept is fundamentally a bad concept. Okay, I wish it wasn't seasonal. And let me tell you why they've gone with the seasonal approach. The reason why Blizzard has started using the verbiage, the exact word season of blank. Okay, and it sounds like they're already hinting at new seasons. Okay, Agrand, in an interview not too long ago, talked about, well, we're not going to do this thing in Season of Discovery, but maybe in some future season. I have a big problem with that. I think the seasonal concept is not good for Classic WoW. Classic WoW does not lend itself to a seasonal idea because Classic WoW is a long-term investment. People want a world immersive experience that they feel like what they do matters. And if they know, this is a 12-month or maybe 18-month kind of flash in the pan situation, then people don't want to invest their time into it. By the way, people are looking in a game like World of Warcraft, people want to invest time. They want a fantasy Tolkien-esque RPG MMO universe that's immersive and it's living and breathing and other people are running around. And in a game that is coined as being a season. It's going to be here for 12 months. I don't know, maybe 14 months. I don't know. It's not really what I'm looking for. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. But let's talk about why Blizzard has gone down this path. Why has Blizzard decided to call it Season of this, Season of Mastery, and now we have Season of Discovery? It is a preemptive copium. It's a defensive mechanism. The reason why Blizzard calls this and they're doing seasons is because it's a preemptive defensive mechanism, because if it fails, then they can say, oh, well, it was a season, we're going to wrap it up, guys. It's because they are afraid to commit, because they're not confident. They're afraid to commit to a project that has a higher degree of permanence, because they're not confident in their ability to make a product that people like. And so if it fails, just like Season of Mastery, just like Season of Discovery is, and I'm going to show you some metrics, we're going to talk about this here in a minute, they can say, well, you know, it wasn't meant to be here forever. It was a season. And by the way, that's all by design. They are baking into the cake a ripcord, a premeditated defensive technique that they can say, well, guys, yeah, it's about time to wrap it up. Okay, so I don't like the seasonal concept. I do not think it fits Classic WoW, and I kind of know why they're doing it, though. Let's play the video.
So fast that you outlevel a zone halfway through, and you don't even get to see some of the legendary quests all the way through, such as killing Warbent Fell, finishing the Habit Necessary quests in STV, and so on. It's kind of like how questing is in Wrath, but even faster. All in all, faster leveling just gets me to endgame sooner, and that's not why I'm playing vanilla. Let's talk a bit more about the endgame though, and what there is to expect. There's a new dungeon, of course, which I definitely plan to check out in time, and the different heat levels for Molten Core, which will surely change up the experience to a certain degree. But what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of your standard classic endgame pre-bis farming, except everyone wants tier 0.5 now, and itemization makes a bit more sense. And when
Well, this is worth commenting on also, okay? We have waited 9 months, maybe 10 months to get level 60 content in Season of Discovery, because we had to go through Phase 1, we had to go through Phase 2, we had to go through Phase 3. So it took us 9 months to get here. Level 60, I'm finally level 60. And what's the gameplay? 95, 99, whatever percent of what we are doing in Season of Discovery Phase 4 is content that was already there. The Season of Discovery developers didn't even make it. Like, think about this. What are you doing? What are you doing? If you're playing Season of Discovery Phase 4, what are you doing? You're doing Upper Blackrock Spire. You're doing Blackrock Depths. You're just doing all the same shit anyway. There's the new dungeon. It's not that great. It's like, okay. And you got one new dungeon. And then you get Molten Core. After 2 weeks, you get Molten Core. And it has 3 difficulties, and the loot is the same in every 3 difficulty. In all 3 difficulties, the loot is exactly the same, albeit the higher difficulties drop more loot. But it's like we waited 9 months for slightly harder Molten Core and a new 5-man dungeon. That is just like, I'm gonna be overly negative, I guess, here, or maybe you can just call it realist or brutally real. It is a new dungeon, but it's a retrofitted outdoor zone. Like, it's not a new environment. They slapped an instance tag onto a pre-existing outdoor terrain. And so think about this. Every single new raid or dungeon that we have gotten so far, Black Fathom Deep, Snowmurgon, Sunken Temple, and now the new dungeon that we have, it's all retrofitted pre-existing content. We don't have a new zone. We don't have a new terrain. We don't have an actual new dungeon. And so, yeah, it is a little bit underwhelming. It is.
I look to the endgame of Classic and think about how it was back in 2019 for its re-release. I just don't feel the need to revisit that experience anytime soon. I did the full pre-bis farm, I farmed 2 Briarwood Reeds on different characters, I completed every raid, and I think a big part of it for me now is that Cataclysm has come around, and for endgame content is really the experience I've been looking for since Classic has come out. In vanilla it was always, wait for this raid, this one will be the hard one, AQ40 will be challenging, ooh, pre-nerf Cthulhu, watch out. Okay, but then like 1% of the player base did Nax back in the day and so on and so forth. And this carried on into TBC and into Wrath too. And though some fights definitely got more challenging, your tier 5 M bosses, Muru, Ulduar hard modes, ICC heroic, often the gameplay was still somewhat lacking for me. It was just missing something. And I've realized from raiding that for me, if there isn't some degree of challenge or that feeling of overcoming bad RNG by using your class's toolkit, I kind of get bored with the format pretty fast. Vanilla in itself is a game about preparation and knowledge over ability and reactions. Did you get all your world buffs? Did you farm your gold for
the real content of Vanilla WoW is the world. It's the world of Warcraft. That's the truth. And Vanilla WoW delivers on that sense of world immersion, that world content, more than any other version of the game, and that's what makes it special. And so identifying what's the one really hyper unique thing about Vanilla WoW? The world. Okay, we're not going to focus on that at all. In fact, we're going to add incursions which take you out of the world. We're going to make you level faster to get you out of the world even sooner, and we're going to put you on a speed track to dungeons and raids, which is like, you know, nothing against the Vanilla WoW dungeons and raids, but like that's not really the highlight. That's not why people don't keep coming back for Vanilla WoW to grind Ubers. Okay, Ubers is fun, but that's not why people keep coming back. People come back for the interactions and the world immersion, and the degree to which that world immersion facilitates and encourages and necessitates those interactions. Okay, and so to completely ignore the world, I think it's a big problem.
consumes? Did you farm your resistance gear for this fight and so on?
In fact, not only did they ignore it, but they actually took, Vanilla WoW has world bosses. They took those out. Those are in an instance now too. Okay.
Because if you check all those boxes, bosses in raids are going to fall over with little resistance. And honestly, they should do. Can you imagine a game where content is actively tuned around needing world buffs or consumables? Yeah, sorry guys, you wiped one time on this boss, go and get your world buffs again, you can try again in an hour or so. And that's if you have a summoning network ready. So again...
Well, so this is what I'll say about the world buffs thing. I think because it seems to me like the classic devs don't really understand why people like Vanilla WoW. As such, I think they're sort of, with a blindfold on, they're throwing darts at the dartboard with their eyes closed or with a blindfold on. And sometimes they do get a bullseye. Sometimes they get a bullseye, but more often than not, they seem to miss. And you know, if they do get a bullseye, it seems kind of accidental. Right? It's like when you're in the second grade and you solve a math problem and then the teacher asks you to show your work and you're like, no. Because you got there kind of accidentally, right? You can't really explain why. And I think this is emblematic and indicative of the fact that, once again, they don't really know why people like Vanilla WoW.
For me, a big part of raiding is having some degree of progression, and raiding doesn't feel like something to work up to when clearing is basically a given if you put in the effort. Now, Cataclysm is no mythic, I realise that, I've done mythics myself, I know what they're like, but it is also a far cry from Classic, where you kinda just walked in and if you've done the prep, you one-shot everything. In fact, I go as far to say as though it's almost spoiled the endgame, if that's the right word, of expansions that came before it. It has an easy gearing process and you can get into raids fast. There's decent challenge from raids, it's not excessive, but it's not face roll. The class design is overall great. Healing, which I re-rolled to this expansion, I'm playing 2 healers, is just straight up amazing and it just clears every expansion that's come before it. And the raids are also very rewarding. I'm raiding on more characters than I've done in any classic game so far in Kata, and I wouldn't be surprised if things stay that way, the way the content cadence is expected to go. Overall, raiding needs some degree of progression or difficulty for me. If it doesn't, the preparation...
So this is the thing with Retail WoW, or Cataclysm, or Wrath, or TBC maybe even, is that I think we can say, maybe not in every case, but in most cases, the dungeons and raids are better. In more recent versions of World of Warcraft, the dungeons and raids, the PvP balance, these things like the BGs, the arenas, like they're better, right? They're better than a lot of what Vanilla WoW has. But I'll speak for myself here, okay? If I'm sort of going to chart out why I love World of Warcraft, okay? This is the world, okay? And for me, This is like raids, right? This is dungeons. This is class balance, maybe a little bit more important. It's not the make or break though. This is arenas. I'm not much of an arena guy, and so it's like all of these things are little supplemental bonuses, but for me, they're not make or break. If your version of WoW does not have the world, if your MMO does not have that hyper immersive world, then it's not for me. But Staysafe, it has the best dungeons. It has the best raids. The class balance is so good. Well, for me, I don't know, maybe I'm the anomaly here. Maybe to be fair, maybe my opinion is not representative of everyone. Most certainly it's not, and maybe I'm in the minority here. But this is the little fluff, like this is the frosting on top of the cake. What's the cake made of? Right? Does the cake do you have that hyper immersive world RPG type of game, or do you have a dead world with a series of instances that people go into and then come out of, and then they're AFK in Stormwind or Shatrath or Dalaran or whatever, right? I want the entire cake. I don't want a bunch of frosting. For me, the cake is the world, and that's what I want.
That goes into raiding just kind of doesn't feel worth doing, because I'm not farming prebis or gold farming so that we have a better chance at killing the boss. I'm doing those things so that we kill it maybe 1 second faster, which is fine. Again, that's just how I feel about it. Obviously, there's a lot of people who enjoy this type of gameplay, and this isn't me trying to be the super elite gamer either, because there's Mythic and retail. If I really wanted hard content first and foremost, I would be doing that. I just like the mix between your typical vanilla gameplay and something more advanced. But here's the thing, there will be different difficulty levels in Season of Discovery. We know that Molten Core will have heat levels. They could end up being a big challenge for all we know. I mean, take a look at Sunken Temple back at the start of Phase 3. It was genuinely hard. They nerfed Shade of Irenicus's health by over 50% not long after people started really getting into the raid. So maybe this heat level thing...
I need to call this out too here, okay? We need to be honest about this. Irenicus being nerfed 3 times in a 2 or 3 day period where they cut his HP in half, that's not like good dev design. That's not good raid design. That's not the developers designing some incredibly hard content. That's them having no goddamn clue about the class balance in the game that they've created. Right? Because if you know, okay, what's the throughput of a red paladin? What's the throughput of a warlock? What is the throughput of a warrior? What is the DPS throughput of a hunter? If you have all these numbers, you've done internal testing or you've done internal simming, then like you need to know the throughput of the classes before you determine how much HP or how hard the bosses hit. How much HP does the boss have? How hard does the boss auto attack the tank for? How much damage does the AoE do? Right? Because you need to know what can players handle. And also it's what can players handle at different like gear brackets. They've got bad gear versus they've got good gear. How does that play out? And so once again, people were like, oh dude, Irenicus was so hard. Blizzard finally made a difficult raid. It's awesome. They did this by accident because they had no idea how powerful the classes are that they made. They've got the new runes. They've got all this new gear, right? They had no clue. And so they overshot it. And then within a 3 day period, they nerfed him 3 times. And they were off by 100%. They cut his HP in half. They were 100% off. I want you to think about that. 2 times more HP than he should have. That's bad. This is not like, yeah, dude, Blizzard finally made an awesome raid. No, this was a colossal mistake.
And will be challenging. So what's the problem there?
Chad, am I being too negative? Am I being too... Do I need to tone it back a little? I don't know, man. Like I'm just unhappy with SOD. I'm just unhappy with SOD. I don't know what to say.
Well, it's pretty simple. Difficulty and world buffs do not mix. You can have a raid that's hard, but you can't give players a 30% damage buffer if you wipe once it's gone. You know the Vantus rune system in retail? In brief, it's an item made through inscription, and you can use it on a boss and you gain some bonus versatility, which broadly means do more damage, take less damage. This is active for the rest of the reset, but you only get to use one of them per reset. So imagine there's one boss which is causing you problems, spawns, everyone uses their Vantus on it, and it gives you that little bonus you need to get the kill. Now imagine your Vantus rune gave you a 30% damage boost, but it's just for one pull. But then you go and pull the boss and somebody messes up that one-shot mechanic that you just can't mess up and you end up wiping, and, well, bad luck. Try again next week.
So I see the comment in chat, if you don't like SOD, don't play it. Here's the problem, is that as a consequence of terrible Blizzard game design in Season of Discovery, most people are not playing it. Like this is a problem. If you are a guy that loves SOD, you need to come to terms. You need to have a very real conversation with yourself, and you need to hold the Blizzard developers accountable here. People are unhappy. Okay, so this is the trend of Season of Discovery so far. And I know, by the way, this chart, before someone says, this chart does not include Phase 4 yet, because no one is raiding in Phase 4, because the raids are not out. Okay, so when Molten Core comes out, you will have another spike. So this is the peak of Phase 3, this is the peak of Phase 2, this is the peak of Phase 1. Now, I think using a little bit of math, I guess we can call it, we can kind of make a very educated guess on how many people are going to be participating in Molten Core in Phase 4. Okay, we have a pretty strong trend here. Also, this trend is totally in sync with Google Trends. This is a representation of, and I've got Season of Discovery and WoW SOD. So WoW SOD is the red line, Season of Discovery is the blue line. I think the red line is probably a little bit more powerful to look at here. So these trend lines almost fall in exact alignment. And so I've done a little bit of math off stream here. You can determine, I put together a little chart. Based off of the numbers we have here, I guess I'm not going to get too mathematical on you guys. Maybe it's a little bit boring. Based off of the numbers that we have here, the SOD Phase 4 Molten Core raid participation peak going to be about 10% of the Phase 1 peak. Okay? So what does that mean? Let's go back to this chart. Phase 1 had 496,000 characters on Warcraft logs. This means Phase 4 is going to have about 49,000. 10%. About 10%. Phase 4, that means between Phase 1 and Phase 4, a 90% player drop-off, and very likely every phase subsequently will reduce in player participation from there. It seems like people really are not resonating with SOD, with Phase 4. There's been a lot of problems. A lot of issues. Where'd that video go?
That's what world buffs are for me. Even in a hypothetical world where world buffs were given inside of a raid for free, there's just so much extra power on our characters now through...
Who are these people? Zaryu likes it, Savix likes it, Kungan likes it, Bean likes it, Sardako likes it. Listen, no offense to those guys. They make money playing it. Okay? I would be wise to shut up and sit here and talk about how much I love it, okay? Because I would make more money. I'm gonna be honest. So listen, if you want to
another one.
If you want to understand whether or not people like a game, you don't listen to streamers. You don't ask a streamer, hey, how good is the game? Okay, especially a week after the game came out when there's a ton of hype. You look at long-term trends. You look at, okay, what's the Google search traffic? What's the YouTube search traffic? What's the raid participation? What does Warcraft logs look like, okay? Because streamers are obviously going to give you a little bit of a hype opinion. And I'm the one dumb streamer that's dumb enough to be like, hey guys, I think this is not going so well. I think that Season of Discovery is going to have a pretty similar fate to Season of Mastery. What happened in Season of Mastery? It fell flat on its face the second people got 60 and started raiding. And so I'm worried that's what happens with SOD, and I'm worried that the future of Classic WoW is in the hands of the people that have that made Season of Mastery and that have made Season of Discovery, because it does not look like things are bright at the moment. I'm going to be totally honest.
Runes, gearing.
And I think the only way that things kind of change here is if you guys stop huffing copium and people have an honest discussion. We say, honestly, you know what? This is not that great.
And consumes that it just feels like such overkill. Obviously, at this point, Blizzard are seeing the season through with this mechanic intact, but ultimately, world buffs mean that raids can't be challenging, and as I've gone over before, unless a raid has some challenge, I'm going to get bored of it pretty fast. But I think that's about it for raids, because there's definitely been a few more things which I wish would have been looked into to some extent. So there is a catch-up system for skill books, which were previously dropped in dungeon content, which can now be bought directly from vendors in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. But there's no catch-up for runes. The prospect of alts is still extremely unappealing.
People, this community, the Season of Discovery community, we have been shouting and screaming about rune catch-up since Phase 2. This is like 6 months, for 6 months. And now we have Phase 4 where this issue has climaxed, right? This is it's a big problem. It's really annoying getting runes on new characters. In fact, they said on Twitter they would do it. Agrin said on Twitter that it's something they're working on, and now Phase 4 is out. After SOD Phase 3 lasted twice as long as it should have. So despite SOD Phase 3 going on for 2 times longer than it should have, still in Phase 4 we don't have rune catch-ups. What's going on?
There's over 30 runes per character now, and some are difficult to get. A number of early game ones need 2 players. Paladin's Sheath of Light rune, for example, requires a full run of Scarlet Monastery Cathedral, and given the whole 150% bonus XP thing, people might not be going out of their way to get that done anymore. It seems strange that there's been some 8 months or so of this season existing, and if you want to re-roll or just, try a different class, you have to gather all of those 30 runes which have existed since the game was put out. You're going to be running around for hours. Literally hours and hours to do this. You would have thought this phase would have been a good opportunity to at least make runes that are gained in the same way across multiple characters easier to get. Again, they could be planning something for the future, but I think the player base would benefit from this. I've mentioned it once or twice in videos now. The Blackrock Mountain event also seems to have proven pretty controversial so far. So it has a 50% uptime, and when it's active, a bunch of high-level elementals spawn in zones around Blackrock Mountain. Typically, you'll want to go and quest in Searing Gorge around level 50, which is coincidentally the level your character would have been by the end of last phase, but this update makes it so half the time you can't really quest in the zone because high level mobs spawn and then actively start to kill off the questing mobs. So I guess you just go somewhere else, I suppose? I'm also seeing a ton of posts about how disruptive the event is on PvP servers.
Well, here's the other thing, okay? So the Classic dev team spent presumably several days or weeks of dev time making this event, putting this event together, coding it, whatever, into the game, creating it. The problem is, multiple problems. One, the stuff he's just talking about, disruptive for levelers. Yeah, true. Searing Gorge is otherwise a really very good leveling zone, shut down 50% of the time. The other problem is the rewards suck. The rewards suck. And so most people don't even feel compelled to do it. And then beyond that, you have the Blackrock Mountain PvP event where you get another 50% bonus honor for killing people inside the mountain, which is also kind of a waste of time, because if you're actually ranking, you're better off farming honor in Alterac Valley because you want the reputation for the good Alterac Valley gear. Okay, and so it's like they added a new way to farm honor inside Blackrock Mountain, and it doesn't matter because you'd rather farm Alterac Valley. And then you have a new way to farm Hydraxian and whatever the other rep is, Thorium Brotherhood, and it's not exactly that compelling. It's just blah. It's just blah. It's just glop. It's just slop. It's just slop.
So again, whilst this event is active, which is half the time, inside Blackrock Mountain you gain 3 times honor, which makes this an extremely good honor farm. So for people who care about ranking, you're incentivized to go and camp people inside of Blackrock Mountain. So I don't know if you played Vanilla's re-release back in Phase 2 when World PvP first came out, but it was done without Battlegrounds, so open world PvP was the only way to rank up, and the world turned into absolute chaos. On some servers it would take you a good 30 to 45 minutes or more to get from a Thorium point to inside a dungeon in Blackrock Mountain, and as novel as it was at the start, the novelty wore off really fast. Blizzard ended up releasing Battlegrounds early, so people went there to rank, but it, without exaggeration, completely killed off factions on a number of servers. Now in Season of Discovery, Blizzard are trying this forced faction balance thing where transfers are only open occasionally, which means if nothing changes, you're going to be stuck on your server enduring a basically endless meat grinder inside of BR.
You want to know something? This forced faction balance in Season of Discovery, Blizzard has never done this ever in any other version of WoW. Retail, never. They've never done this. Private servers have done this, where they force faction balance in a very similar way. This is the first time Blizzard has ever done it on an official server. It's awesome. It's great. And maybe that's controversial to say that. Maybe someone's mad about that, but it's awesome. Faction balance, this is a W. This is one of the W's of Season of Discovery.
RM for the rest of Season of Discovery. Yeah. Because if this remains one of the best ways to gain honor, which it probably will do, I don't see a reason it would stop. And we have rank 14 to look forwards to at some point in the future. And though faction balance may be 50-50 on a server overall, once your faction controls the mountain, it's really difficult for any unorganized group to retake it. Because when you resurrect in World of Warcraft, you resurrect with basically no health whatsoever, and after you've died about 3 times in a row, you need to sit there and wait for 2 minutes for some reason between each res. Basically, Blizzard have taken a reason that people quit in Phase 2 of Classic, and a reason a number of servers died, and they've made it into a feature. Saying this, every single PvP event in Season of Discovery has...
That's a funny way to put that. That's how I feel about the incursion system. Blizzard took the worst questing or farming system in base game vanilla WoW, which is the scenario and logistics badges that you farm if you're getting Earthstrike or your Rock Fury bracers, and everyone hates it. Everyone hated farming logistics badges. They hated it, and they said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make that the leveling meta. That system that everybody hated, the logistics farming thing, we're going to make that the leveling meta, and we're going to call it incursions, and you're going to be running around in circles. And yeah, they actually did it. They did it. They really
has
did.
Undergone changes, and I'd suggest that open world PvP should never really be the best source of honor, and that you need to keep people inside of battlegrounds or it just ends up getting pretty degenerate. And I'm not surprised to see there has already been an update here. Blizzard are adding the Drained of Blood aura from the STV PvP event. This will make it so you'll need to do way less res runs to get to where you need to be inside the mountain, and you won't instantly die when you exit an instance portal anymore. This should definitely take some of the problems out of the event on PvP servers, but I still think it's going to be pretty active for the remainder of the season. I've said it before, but Blizzard really needs to put a warning on new character creation on PvP servers. They inevitably get extremely degenerate because of the complete lack of restrictions on PvP. Now, some people love that, which is absolutely fine, but I think it might make enough people think twice, rather than just having the expectation that, oh, this game's been out forever, you should understand what you're getting yourself into. I don't know why you'd treat potentially new players like that. Anyways, those are my initial thoughts on Phase 4. I know it's not all positive so far, but I just wanted to get it out there and see how other people are feeling about it. As mentioned earlier, I'll still level at least one character to 60, just very casually, do some dungeons, and get a general impression of the patch, so I can get a first-hand experience of what it's all like. But that's it. Let me know your thoughts on Phase 4 so far. Have you come back to the game? Are you giving it a miss? Is it going well for you? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.
There you have it. Thank you, WillE. Good video. Good video. It's a good video. So he hasn't really played it a whole lot. He's kind of looking at it externally, and he's going to level soon, I guess. But I guess we need to give Sod another... Well, the new raid comes out in a couple days. I think in like 2 days. 3 days. The new raid comes out in 3 days. Let me think through this. The new raid comes out in 3 days. We need to give the new raid probably 2-3 weeks of breathing room where people are actively raiding it, and then we will know exactly how many people are participating. Because always within 2 or 3 weeks of a new raid, okay, we have our peak. Approximately we have our peak. And so yeah, Molten Core new. And so yeah, we're gonna know. We're gonna know. I was talking about this earlier. Based off some of the information we have here from Google Trends and from Warcraft log raid participation, seems to me like we're gonna have around 10% of the Phase 1 peak. So if the Phase 1 peak is 496,000, there will be approximately 49,000. 10% of Phase 1 will be the peak of Molten Core. That's my prediction. Hold me accountable. Hold me to it. We're going to see here. We're going to know within 3 weeks. So come back to this video. I imagine the comments on this YouTube video, because this is going to go on YouTube, are going to be fiery. I'm sorry. I was a little bit heated talking about Sod today, but I don't know. I feel like everything is... it's there's a lot of copium. There's a lot of people with their head buried under the sand, and that's not going to solve anything. That doesn't fix anything. That doesn't fix any issues. That doesn't send a message to the classic devs that, hey, listen, you need to get a grip on this. Hey, listen. What all of us should be saying, this is the message. There should be a goddamn petition or something, or thread on the BattleNet forums. SAW developers, you need to talk to us. You need to incorporate the player base into your decision making, okay? This whole mystery box season of discovery, it's going to be a secret, and you're not allowed to know what it is. That's actually the exact opposite of how you should do Classic Plus. This approach to Classic Plus, hey guys, we're going to do Classic Plus here, but we're going to completely cut the player base out of the decision-making process, and you guys just have to see what we come up with, okay? That's the exact opposite, 180 degrees opposite, the other direction of how this should be approached. And the reason why I say that is because look at the colossal, monumental success of old school RuneScape. There's an incredible amount of player feedback. There's an incredible amount of bouncing ideas back and forth, and people love the game, and people love it. Old school RuneScape came out 11 years ago in January of 2013, 11 and a half years ago, and it's bigger than ever. People love it more than ever. It's growing. It's not a season. It's been out here for 13 years, and it's growing. And this is a game that looks like a piece of shit from 2004, and it's growing. And why? Because the developers talk to the player base, they incorporate them into the decision-making process, and the game has thrived as a consequence and as a result. And we have the exact opposite with Season of Discovery, and what do we have? A big piece of shit. And right now, I understand there's a lot of people that are on the Phase 4 copium. Phase 4 came out a week ago, and people are coping about it. You think it's going to be awesome. Give it a month. Give it a month. If you disagree with me now, you're going to come back 4 weeks from now, and you're going to say, you know what, Staysafe, you were pretty fucking right. You know what, Staysafe, you were spitting. On that video where I said, Staysafe, you're so stupid. Phase 4 is going to be awesome. You're going to apologize. You're going to be wrong, and you're going to come back, and you're going to apologize, and I'll be here waiting, and I'll say, come back. It's fine. And now we can talk to Blizzard and say, listen, you guys need to incorporate us, the players, into the decision-making process in order to make Azeroth great again. Thank you very much.